the Antichrist. You got me in a vendetta kind of mood.
Hi, folks. Welcome on a beautiful Thursday. How you is? What it was. Can I go 3 words without getting cancer in my fucking chest? Jesus Christ, I can't wait for life to end. Good to be with you. Good show today. Very special guest. A longtime friend of mine who I call him the King of New Jersey. He's such a Jersey guy and a guy's guy. And when I was in New York, he always seemed to be there when I was having a meltdown on stage. To the point where I would almost blame it on him. I'd look up, he'd be in the doorway crying because I'm calling some woman this morning. Anyways, it's the very funny Jimmy Florentine. He's got a new album coming out. When did he say? The end of this month? End of this month, called You Can't Please Them All. First the audio comes out, I guess, and then the actual special. So keep an eye out for that. So, by the way, I know I teased having Steve Sweeney on, but he has to have a medical procedure. Apparently, they have to remove a 9-volt battery from his ass. No, I don't know. He didn't get specific, but he's at that age. Could be a heart, could be bunions. But he's having a procedure, so instead we got the great Jimmy Florentine. Jimmy, how you going?
How's it going, Nick? Good to see you.
Same here, man. I love that Gutfeld uses you so much. Do you enjoy doing that show? I found it tricky. I have an open invitation, but I think we've talked about this. I refuse to fly to New York. My manager's like, "Oh, you don't want to do TV?" I'm like, "It's a long story, all right? Just fucking." Do you find you do that show? You're very good at it because you don't want to come out too jokey when you're on Gutfeld. I mean, Jamie Lissow does that great. He's known as the joke guy, so people know it's coming. But it's tricky because you're talking about serious shit. You don't want to sound like you're trying to be Tom Brokaw, but you're there for the comic relief. And you seem to handle it pretty good. How much preparation?
No, I spend the whole day. I treat it like a Letterman appearance, like back in the day. Because that's the audience he has. He has, 2.5 million people watching a night. So that's pretty much doing like Letterman. I do it like once a month. So I really prepare all day. As soon as I get that material, I'm just working through it. I want to make a good point and then maybe end with a joke. Sometimes it's not even a joke.
Right.
So that's the way I look at it. So, no, I take it. I love doing the show. It's great. And it's huge exposure.
Yeah. And you make it look natural because some people, it's sometimes it's not. Red Eye, we used to do Red Eye, and that was something about knowing that was going to air at 3 a.m. I mean, I would hardly prepare, which was stupid, but he just had faith in me to come up with something on the spot. But yeah, when I see you on it, I go, he's got it down. It's kind of tricky and shit. What's up career-wise, Jimmy? How much of the road are you doing?
I'm doing a lot. A little slow in the summer, but the fall's here, so it picks right back up.
Yeah. I
still love being out there, working jokes and stuff. The traveling's starting to get to me a little.
Yeah.
So, but, I got a new album coming out, a special coming out at the end of September.
Oh,
so
good.
now I'm working new material. Yeah, it's called You Can't Please Them All.
And you're talking about broads.
I wish. That's
see that? No.
I can't even please one of them.
Jimmy's a fucking ladies man. Don't let him kid you. Hey, you what the fuck? I was just gonna ask you now. Fuck. Oh, does your son ever come? How old's your son now? Probably 48.
He's 14.
He's 14. Holy fuck. 14. Does he ever come with you on the road at all or no?
Yeah, he comes. He loves it. He loves watching stand-up, watch all the comics. He has a ton of favorite. We watched some of your special. He was dying.
Yes, that's my demographic. The 14-year-old Jersey boys love me.
But you want the young kids to like your stuff.
You're telling me.
You know who he's into? He likes like Kinnison. He loves Kinnison.
Oh, he has good taste.
Watching clips of him. Oh yeah, no, believe me, he's just like me. We watch the same shows, same sports teams. Beautiful.
So he's going to be a horrible human being. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. If at some point he could have a girlfriend and I could be banging his mom, it'll be the hat trick.
That's the Jimmy Florentine. Now, last time we talked, I think you said, didn't your son actually go on stage and tell a few jokes, or am I dreaming?
Yeah, he hasn't been on stage in like 3 or 4 years, since before the pandemic. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He did it a lot, but now he's a teenager. Wants to hang out with his friends. He's playing basketball all the time, so
yeah,
I'm not going to push it on him. It's a lonely life. You know what it is.
Oh boy. And what's funny is we're talking to the great Jimmy Florentine. You just said the road's starting to get to me now. I said that I think 2 years after my first open mic. I love telling you the story because we have the same agent, and he's like, I go, is Nick touring? He goes, Nick doesn't want to go any flight past Chicago. He's not going. I remember that. I started laughing. Chicago? yeah. That doesn't leave much. It leaves Vermont and New Jersey.
I know.
Yeah, look, when I was young, I did all those. I went to Seattle twice a year sometimes, and L.A. and all that shit. And I just fucking can't sit still in a plane. 2 hours is the fucking. But look, I'm going to Vegas at the end of the month here. Skankfest. Are you going to be there or no?
No, I won't be there this year.
I've never been. They've asked me like 10 years. I've never done it. So Joe List they ambushed me. They were on the air live, and Joe called me, and I haven't seen my boy Joe List, and I like all those guys, Big J and those guys.
No, it's great.
So
it's great. Skankfest. It's easy. Yeah, you do like 2 or 3 shows, and that's it.
Yeah, like
15, 20-minute sets.
Yes. That's why I said yes. The night before, I'm doing, so this proves that I do go a little west. I'm doing Wise Guys in Utah, and then that one sold out already, which, it doesn't happen often. So I'm happy about that. And then the next 2 nights, I'll go to Skankfest. And but you and like you said, we love it. Look, we try to tell people when you're on stage and telling jokes and murdering, there is no better feeling in the fucking world. But you know as well as I do, when it came to me, well, when I first moved to New York, me and Louie would do 6-7 sets a night, and because you're in New York, you're like, I got to make it here, fucking whatever. But as well, later on, after I had done my Lettermans and Tonight Shows and shit, I fucking even didn't like going to the cellar and doing 3 sets a night. And you would always be there when I lost my shit on stage. Jimmy would always be there. I don't know if I was almost ready to blame you. Every time I fucking lost my shit, I wouldn't even know he would be watching. And I'd look and I'd hear that laugh from the corner. Stand up or the Comedy Cellar.
I wish those sets were filmed because it was like it was a comic having a mental breakdown on stage, but he was killing. Like if one joke didn't get a 10 out of a 10, you would scream at the audience, "You fucking Hillary Clinton cunt liberals. What do you guys know?" And the crowd's like, I just didn't like that joke, and then the next joke would kill.
It has to be me because even Colin Quinn would go. Colin would go to me, "Don't be that guy that can't hear the laughter." And I said, "You're too late." Even the doorman down there, the big dude who I think died since, he said to me one night, because one guy was sitting there with his arms crossed. The guy was wearing one of those Irish scally caps, and he made some crack to me. So on the way off, I said, "Good night, everybody." He was right in the front. When I was coming off the stage, I flipped his hat off his head, and the doorman goes, "What the fuck are you doing? You gonna stop?" And then, you know who wised me up, Jimmy? Ironically, I said, I said, and I was saying it for years, this place now brings the worst out. And it was my favorite room like everybody else. And I said, this place now brings the worst out in me. And Sherrod Small looked at me and he goes, "That's because you've outgrown it." And that just rung so true with me. I loved when we go on the road, you do 45 to an hour. And then to come down, and again, those places are workshops. It's there to work out new shit. But it would be very hard to work out new shit when there were other guys going on doing their best 15 young guys coming up and ripping the tits off the crowd. People don't see all that, right?
No, and especially if you do edgy material, you got to get the crowd to like you. And if they don't know who you are and you're only doing 15 minutes, you got to spend like the first 7 minutes getting them to like you and then hitting them. So it's not like a regular set on the road where you got time to do the brutal stuff later on in the set. You got to get to your shit right away. Yeah, and everybody's doing the greatest hits at the clubs.
Trying to follow Greer Barnes. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody like that, who I love, by the way. That's not a slap at Greer, but he would do the same fucking 15, and I mean honed and really funny, and then I'm going up there with like notes in my hand. Because you got to get new work done, right? And fucking they're looking at me like, and Jimmy goes, like you said, they got to like you at the beginning. I don't think my face gives off that vibe, even when I'm enjoying myself.
Sometimes I do sets in New York now. I'll just tell the crowd, I go, listen, I'm just going to be nasty right off the bat. Are you guys okay with it? I'm really a nice guy. I got a kid. I take care of him. I'm a single. Can I just get right to my shit? I don't have 5 minutes of nice stuff to warm you up with. Let me just get to my stuff.
See that? That's how to handle it. That is how you go. I got a kid. I take care of him. Obviously, I'm white. Listen,
I know.
That's what I'd do, and I'd say a line like that, and that would make me. Again, you're gonna forget who you're playing to down there. And I always say this to people. I go, you realize the Comedy Cellar and all those clubs are on the campus of NYU. I would go. I've been in the enemy in that room forever. First 3 or 4 years I wasn't, because I was just I wasn't really leaning into the political shit. And then by the end, Jimmy, like years ago, when did I leave there? 5, 6 years ago, I would go on, and it was me again, but I could see them after the first joke fold their fucking arms, because I wouldn't warm them up either. I was like you. I didn't explain that I was going to be nasty. I was just nasty.
Right.
They would cross their fucking arms, and then the last set I did was at the Underground in New York, which is around the corner. Same people own it, the Comedy Cellar. I ate a bag of shit and called the audience every fucking name in the book. Of course, I look up and Colin is there, and then Colin tries to give me a dad son talk, and I go, Colin, for fuck's sake. I said, I don't want to do good in front of these communist cocksuckers. I was so glad when I fucking left that place. But I do. But now I'm down here, Jimmy. I got nowhere to fucking work out. Savannah doesn't have a scene. So what do I do?
There's no clubs at all there. Nothing?
Not unless you want to do cabaret and follow a fucking stripper.
Right.
And I'm glad they don't, Jimmy, because I always had this theory. Same with New Orleans. They really don't have a comedy scene. They have theaters where, big name would do comedy. But those tourist places are not places where you want to do comedy. You know what I mean?
No.
Because the audiences have nothing in common. At least at the Comedy Cellar, I knew they were all left-wing douchebags, and I could work with that. But right, like New Orleans and Savannah, you don't want a bunch of tourists, mom and dad with their fucking 14-year-old daughter there and shit. At least I don't.
No, and that's why I like working the stand in New York City, because it's all New Yorkers. You're not getting tourists there, which is great.
That's
way better crowd.
Yes, that's what I did after Noam sat down and talked with me and said, look, we're getting so much hate mail. And I didn't even argue. I go, Noam, I'm not even going to try to argue. I said, I know. I said, this place brings the worst out of me. And I said, I said to him, I'm going to take a little break from this play. He didn't tell me I had to. So I was going to the stand. And you're right. It was a little more of a New York vibe to it. And then they said, Nick, you got to take it easy. And I said, where am I going to go now? No, that's where I saw you a lot, when I was at the stand, and I would hear you cackling.
No, I wish I could have videoed those sets.
So what are we looking for on this new album or special? What did you touch on?
The tranny stuff. Men can get pregnant. The usual.
Yes. Does your go ahead.
I talk about in Jersey, and this is true of my son's middle school. They were they sent a letter home that they're going to teach them men can get pregnant, but you could opt out if you wanted to, if you didn't want your kid to learn that in health class. So I'm the only parent that opted in, because I wanted to know what the hell how they were explaining that to my kid. So I talk about that in my special. And they also, in Jersey, if my kid wants to be called the girl's name or wants to start taking, counseling on transitioning, they won't notify the parents. They'll keep that. If he misses homework, it's 17 phone calls.
Right.
They'll call home, but they'll keep that shit private at school. So I talk about that on my special, and then they're just the regular dick jokes. You know,
which sort of tie in with the transgender.
But it's weird because that's why I call the special "You Can't Please Them All," because people would walk out on my set, and I would just go, "You can't please them all." It wouldn't even bother me, especially with the transgender stuff. They really, wherever you are in the country, you'll get people to walk out as soon as they hear you bring it up. They're done.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Luckily, I'm at the point where I guess I'm known enough. I've been around so fucking long that they know not to come out to my show. These fucking But there'll always be those sheep that wander in, because they saw a comedy club, and that's what I like to explain. There's a lot of people on TV right now calling themselves comedians. I don't want to name names, but they're not comedians. They're people that are on TV shows that get very popular, and people come out to see them because they're on TV shows. They didn't do open mic nights. They didn't do the road for 25 years. To me, those are the comedians. But everybody likes to throw around comedian in the title now. And you and I know the fucking difference. So people that come out to see me know what's coming. Am I sort of preaching to the choir? Yes, but what am I going to do? I was preaching to the enemy in New York for last 15 years of my career. So, yeah, I finally earned the right to have people who like what I do come out. You finding you have more of a fan base that knows what's coming, Jimmy, or?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely. But as a comic, that's what you want. At the end of the day, you want people that like you to come see you perform.
Right.
That's the ultimate goal. But I like going in a stand, too, because they're like 25-year-old kids. They have no idea who I am. So I want to see if the stuff works in front of people that I don't know, which most of the time it doesn't.
That's actually a great point, though, because I'm pulling stuff up from 3 albums ago because I don't have a place to work shit out. I always freewheel off the cuff. I've always done that my whole career, hoping something will land. I have that ability, thank God. But now I'm dipping into shit from like 3 albums ago that I forgot about that is still relevant and good material. Only because I can't sit down and write an hour, and I get nervous because I see you putting out a special, all these guys, Joe List, Colin, or whatever, and I get antsy. I almost don't feel like a comic, but I get to do this every day and be funny off the top of my head, and then I still pick my spots on the road, but I do miss that being in a club. That's what I was most proud of. I don't know if you agree. I said this to Colin. I said, the thing I'm most proud of, honest to God, about my career is that I could hold my own at the Comedy Cellar for 20-something years every night, going on after a Dave Attell or Chappelle walked in, or even a Seinfeld, or Greg Giraldo or Patrice. Don't you think that's why the guys that came out of New York are still held in high regard? Absolutely.
I mean, I tell people on the road, or, when they do like the Montreal Comedy Festival or whatever the order is going to be, I'm like, hey, those Comedy Cellar sets on a Tuesday night following Jim Norton or Colin or you or Attell, that's going to make you better. And when you have to deal with that, and when you're filming a comedy special with 6 other comics, you're not afraid of it because you've already went through it a million times.
No, it's definitely, that's why I always tell young comics that would open me on the road, I go, you got to go through New York. If you want to be a stand-up and do this for a living, you got to go through New York. And luckily, I was from a town in Boston that had a great comedy scene, and you had to follow these guys that have been doing it. It's my first year, and they've already been doing it for 12 years. And in Boston, the star is the host of the show. So I'd have to go on after Steve Sweeney or Don Gavin or Lenny Clark opened with 15 minutes and blew the roof off the dump. And then that's why I was sort of prepared when I went to New York. And then they couldn't understand me because of my stupid Boston accent. Some of my jokes go ahead.
I still think that the Boston comics, that city has the best comics that have come out of, and it's probably because of that. No question, around the world, Boston has the best comedians.
I honestly, I say that because I say being a comedian from Boston is like being a football player that grew up in Texas or Ohio. You're proud to come out of that pedigree, And,
Right.
And even Colin's very fussy, like me, who he likes and who he does. He always loved Boston and still quotes Boston comics. And yes, a lot of famous people. I mean, Billy Burr, we always talk about this, but Joe Rogan, Billy Burr, Louis C.K., Stephen Wright, Paula fucking Poundstone, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, just to name a few. It's like being a football player out of Texas without the pussy.
No, it really is. You're right. I mean, I've always Robert Kelly, Dane Cook,
Yeah.
Greg Fitzsimmons,
Yes.
Patrice. There's 4 more.
Yes.
And plus all those local Boston comics that never left Boston, like Steve Sweeney.
Yes.
And Kevin. I forget that guy Kevin's last name. I used to work with him up there all the time.
The dead
There's
guy?
a bunch of
Kevin Meaney?
guys that. Yeah, Meaney, but all the guys that never left Boston that were unbelievable.
Yeah. Even
Tony V. Yep.
Solid comic, just consistently funny. And
Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox, who God
Guy was a machine on stage. I used to open for him all the time.
God rest his soul. Kevin Knox died of cancer. I didn't even know he had it. I came home to do a Comics Come Home or one of those things, and I run into him, and his head is shaved. I go, that looks fucking great. Why'd you do that? He didn't say anything. He didn't lead on. I just like it this way. And then I find out like a month later that he's dying of cancer and lived 7 years longer than they said he was going to. But Kevin Knox, for Dallas, my producer, guys who aren't familiar with him, another guy that didn't really leave Boston, but he'd come on in a sweatsuit, kind of unzipping down here like it's the 1970s, and he loved his blow, and he would just come on. In the 80s, when AIDS was at its peak and everybody was afraid to talk about it, his opening joke would be, hey, you know what AIDS stands for? Adios, infected dick suckers. that would be his opening joke. And then like Dave Attell and these New York comics would go up to Boston for the weekend to do a gig, and they would come back going, I can't believe this guy's saying this shit. and in Boston, the crowd, and this is in the 80s, it's so ironic now because Boston is so politically correct and liberal, but they were just the opposite. It couldn't get rough enough for them, comedy-wise. And Kevin Knox would tear the fucking room to shreds. And the most likable guy, of course, it never happens to I'm not going to mention the 40 people I hate. I keep wishing can't Trump people. I'm going to be right once. For those of you guys watching on Mug Club, stick around for the second half of my interview with the very funny Jimmy Florentine. The rest of you, if you want to join Mug Club, go to nickdip.com. And if you do that, you'll get my entire show, Steven Crowder's entire show. You get his undercover team who breaks national stories and is sitting on 2 doozies. Alex Jones every other week. It's a great deal, and you're crazy if you don't do it. And while you're at nickdip.com, click on the tour button. You'll see that September 27th, I'll be at Wise Guys, Jordan Landing, Utah. And then the next 2 nights, the 28th and the 29th, I'll be in Las Vegas at Skankfest. I'm not even sure what hotel they're doing it at. Maybe they're doing it in the street. I don't know. And then November 9th, this just went on sale today, I think, or yesterday, whatever. November 9th, Bridgeview Center Theater, Ottumwa, Iowa. I can't wait to do that one. Nice conservative enclave. And I don't think I've done a gig in Iowa. Looking forward to that. So that is that. Now, with all the business taken care of, let's get back to the very funny Jimmy Florentine.
Hi, good night, everybody.